Welcome to Stitchery Stories, where textile artists share their life in fabric and thread, inspiration, techniques, disasters and delights. And I'm Susan Reeks, enthusiastic embroiderer and textile art dabbler who also loves podcasting. So take a break and enjoy our light-hearted chat, and please share with your friends so they can enjoy it too. Hello and welcome today to our lovely guest, Jo Mitchell. Hi Jo.
Hi Sue.
It's brilliant to speak to you today, and I've always really admired the gorgeous sparkly work that you share on Instagram. So I'm so happy that we're speaking today. So now I've got Jo's bio here, which is lovely. I've always been obsessed by the art of dressmaking for as long as I can remember, and eventually came across the magical world of haute couture as a teenager, flipping through treasured copies of Vogue. The embroidery on the gowns, the magic part, was something I'd never thought I would be able to do until I picked up a tambour needle. I think I've said that right, haven't I? Tambour needle. And held it in the basement of a London beading emporium and tracked down a couple of small slate frames. 6 or so years later, I've been very lucky and have provided pieces for the haute couture and have had work on a couple of films, one of which won an Oscar for the costumes. Ooh. I post my work on the internet in the hopes that people will try it themselves and not spend 30 years thinking they too are unable to make magic. I'm entirely self-taught from necessity rather than design. I'm not at all patient and always try and help others with any questions they have and marry them up with resources. I'm very grateful to be doing this and hope we dispel some of the mystique of the world of haute couture embroidery. Brilliant!
Thank you very much for having me on.
Oh, Jo, it's an absolute pleasure. It's lovely. Now then, I'm doing well with my links as well. So, Jo, the best place to find out what Jo's up to is on Instagram, and on there he is Broder Bear, Brodeur, Bear, Bear. And of course, that link will be on his episode of StitcheryStories.com. So there we are.
Thank you very much. Mm-hmm.
Pleasure. Now then, Jo, before we get too delved down in your stitchery story today, would you like to share with us what you are working on and what's got you excited?
At the moment, I'm working on making some fake tweed, copying kind of Linton and Chanel. But that's only just for my own personal pleasure, really.
Yeah.
And at the moment, I'm trying to copy something called Suzhou Embroidery, which is the thing that they do in China with the very fine mulberry silk, where you split it down and make pictures and things like that.
Yes.
But that's a different kettle of fish to what I'm used to doing completely. And it's very interesting, though, but quite difficult.
Yeah, it always looks very difficult. Is that the one that as well that's the same on both sides?
That's right, yes. So I don't anticipate mine's going to be the same on both sides for a while. I think it's just another excuse to hoard things.
No, I see my friend Alison, who was at my first guest, she's done some same on both sides work. And I looked at it, and it was the first time I'd ever seen it. I was going, wow, how on earth have you managed to do that? Because I'm an absolute so-and-so for putting knots. You know, I'm terrible. Everyone tuts at me when I put a knot in the back. Stop putting knots on it. Never mind. It's a habit now. I can't stop doing it.
Oh, as long as it stays in, I don't think it really matters. People aren't going to look at the back, hopefully. So I'm a bit of a knotter myself, to be honest.
Now, well, you see, now Tina, this last week, she was telling us that the prints of the backs of her work do remarkably well. She's well chuffed with those. So people just like the pattern and the kind of randomness of it all. Yeah.
And I think there's other embroiderers out there, really, that we all like to look at the back, if we're honest, don't we? We kind of think, oh, the front's nice, but how did they do it? Turn it around.
Yeah, where's all them bits of thread and knots? Yes.
That's right. Yeah, I want to see how you've gone wrong, not how you've gone right. Thank you.
So what set you off with doing those? Is it just personal interest? You just fancied having a go?
I've always admired it, but I found a website, to be honest with you, that sold the silk. So I thought, oh, I'll buy some of that. Because you need the right kind of silk, I think. I've tried it with the thinner silks, but it's too laborious.
Oh, right.
But it's you can buy it from China. So I picked some up and then thought I'll attack that. It's quite hard to do the designs, though, because when they teach the Suzhou embroidery there, they spend 5 or so years, I believe, learning how to draw instead. So that's part of the piece too. Unfortunately, that's a skill I don't have. So it's a bit of photocopier again. No.
Yes. Yeah, but as I've discussed many times with other people confuse the ability to create something beautiful with fabric and threads with the ability to draw. And we do have all the technology now. You know, we've got printers and photocopiers and the internet and stuff. So it's a lot easier, isn't it, really? And there's some stuff I'm working on at the moment. I'm not going to draw that. I'm just going to print the photo out and get the shapes out of it. So, you know.
That's part of the creative process. I think it's just as important to be able to do that as it is to make something with a pencil, maybe. Although I'd love to be able to draw myself.
Well, exactly. We always say this, don't we? I can't draw, but don't let it stop you from creating art.
No, absolutely not. Yes, there's something else you can do. If you can't draw, you can do something else.
And now the other thing, Joe, is what I was really, really surprised to discover is I believe that doing all this beautiful tambour work in embroidery is something that you do on a part-time basis. You have a proper job as well.
I have a proper job in the daytime, working in an office and do office work and things like that. And it's an event organiser. But I do it in the part-time mainly because in this country and things like that, it's quite hard to get the work for it full-time, even though it's quite nicely compensated when you do get it. It's difficult to find something that would keep you going all the time. But if you don't live in Paris, it's hard to have access to the kind of customers that you'd need to make it financially viable to do it on your own.
Right. So a lot of this work is centred around Paris then. That's not just a stereotype.
No, it's literally, you do find out pretty early on if you do it and then you come into contact with the right kind of people. They'll happily tell you that by all means do it, but it's really hard to make a living from it because there are only very, very few people in the world that can actually afford to pay for it. I mean, people can use your work, but if they don't have customers that will pay, I know it sounds ridiculous, but £100,000 for a dress without worrying about it, then that's the kind of market that it ends up on. Right. Unfortunately, although it's cheap to do. And they're literally just paying for the labour as well, which is quite reassuring. It's one of the places where they do really treat you nicely and they respect what you can do.
Right. So now, normally, when we talk about you being paid by the hour, it seemed to be not a good thing. But if you're working on something so intricate that is very labour intensive and is going to take a long time to produce something beautiful, that's where the expense comes in, isn't it? Because somebody spent all those hundreds of hours. I'm sure it's not an exaggeration either.
Oh, no. Some of them take thousands and thousands of hours. Literally, you can spend months and months working on a piece of embroidery, a gown or something that'll be seen for 10 seconds.
Yeah, wow. That's really an absolute eye-opener. Yeah, it's all back down to demand and supply again, isn't it? And the fact that some of these gowns, people tut and complain in the newspapers, oh, it's disgraceful, somebody paying £100,000 for a gown. But it's also, I suppose, it's created a lot of work for people in the process as well, hasn't it?
Sure, it's one of the only areas of fashion. I think because people are used to paying things like you see a pair of jeans and because it has a designer label, it's the same pair of jeans that you would buy on the high street, but because they've got a different label on it, it costs more money. But then when you're trying to explain haute couture, because it's different to that, it's literally made by hand. The seams are all sewn by hand. The beading is all done by hand and it's made to fit you. So it's literally, they make 1% profit on a £100,000 dress.
1% profit?
Yeah, wow. They make a profit at all. More often than not, they don't make any profit at all because it costs them far more to make it than it does. Because they might not sell the sample and it's cost them that much money to make the sample. They don't have the resources to do it for free.
Yeah.
So even if you're making a sample for a runway show, they still have to pay the full amount for it. Usually what they do is they have someone like Lesage or Montex or any of the other houses that they can Google. They do amazing work. If you Google Lesage or Montex, you see some really interesting pieces of embroidery that they do. And because they're owned by the same companies that own the haute couture houses, or they have them in-house, like Chanel, for example, lots and lots of the feather makers and embroiderers and things. So they can have them at their beck and call. But sometimes every house has a kind of a style. So like Montex is really good at doing really intensive beadwork that would send other people insane. Like they can count out the tiniest beads and sew them on so they look like they were done by machine. And Lesage has a huge heritage of all the embroidery that they've done for hundreds of years, and they have always have exquisite taste and things like that. But my work got used, believe it or not, because it was gaudy. When I go to the meetings and things, they were kind of, their English isn't the same as ours, and they were kind of saying, "Oh, your stuff is very gaudy." So I think my naivety got me the work there, but that was okay. So they have to. They use you if they like the way that your thing looks, if it's not necessarily the same as the sort of work that they'd be able to get from one of the other places.
Yeah, it's back down to being style, isn't it? Somebody's style, somebody's personality, and how something's done. that matches up with the look that they're looking for to achieve for a specific piece for a specific person for a specific reason.
Yeah, or sometimes what they do as well is they get people in and they'll look at their work and they'll buy the samples that you make, and then they'll be inspired to make a gown from that, and then they'll have you do some other bits for it too.
Yeah. No, this is all absolutely fascinating. And it was very interesting when I was speaking with Jane Emerson back in September, October time as a textile designer. Same thing. She creates inspiration pieces, which then people will then go on and turn into a fabric, a printed or whatever it is. Yeah. So that was all very, very interesting as well.
Yeah, they do that quite a bit too. They'll take a picture of an embroidery and they'll turn it into a print or something like that. It's quite interesting.
No, that's absolutely brilliant. Well, I can see why all of this is all very, very exciting, which then leads me into, and thank you for those little eye-openers into the world of Haute Couture embroidery. And I'm sure we'll get some more as well. So now then, so how did you get interested in this in the first place? Because you alluded in your little bio there about almost by accident thinking that you could never be able to do it and then finding what a tambour needle did.
When I grew up, I always was interested in dressmaking, things like that. It was always on the periphery, and eventually taught myself how to do it and things, and was making dresses for people, that sort of thing. And you learn about haute couture, and so you read about that a bit more. And there was a famous documentary, not famous, people that like fashion always like this documentary series and that they watched called The Look on BBC Two that was on in the 90s, millions of years ago. And it had a programme on the haute couture, and it showed you these ladies that were working at Lesage making some famous embroideries for Yves Saint Laurent at the time.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at them, and they were all upside down, and all you could see of the women on the top were holding these little wooden things, and the fingers underneath were going mad. And then the camera swept under their frames, and you could see that they were fastening all sorts of things on, and thinking, "Oh my god!" Because before I thought, maybe they just every sequin must go on with a needle and thread, and that would take forever, and I'm not trying that. Yeah. But then I saw them doing that and thinking, "Oh my god, how on earth do they do that?" I never saw anything about it again until years later. I was in a bead shop, and it had these little weird-looking crochet hooks and these pointed needles. So I thought, that's what they were using. I'll get one of those. But then you come across a problem. The biggest problem with what I do is you need a big frame to hold the fabric up, because you have to have a frame that will accommodate the piece as big as the pattern piece that you hope to put on the dress.
So if it's going to be a long dress, it's going to be a long frame, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. So you end up having to get lots and lots of different frames, and they're really, really hard to get hold of. The one place I found them, the guy that made them actually went to Haiti to help with the disaster that they had, and I never heard from him again. But I got a local carpenter I know, to make me some frames from these ones that I bought from him. And it was really cheap, but it's just finding the carpenter and being able to explain to them what you want, I guess. Yeah. So if people, it sounds prohibitive, but if people are really serious about trying it, it's not too expensive, and also you're helping your local carpenter.
Somebody else to earn a living. Yeah, exactly.
And if anybody wants a picture of the frame or anything, I'm more than happy to supply the gory details if they want to try and have one copied themselves.
Brilliant.
But I've never found anywhere that actually sells them in all my years, apart from this one guy that disappeared.
Yeah.
But you need the big frame to stretch it onto to make it the same size as the pattern piece. Otherwise, it becomes incredibly complicated.
Yeah, I should imagine it is. And so I usually see, is it normally organza that you would be working on?
You can actually use anything. I use organza because it's easy. You can transfer a pattern onto it easily and see it and things like that. You either use that or silk tulle, unfortunately, which is hideously expensive because it mustn't stretch. And silk tulle doesn't stretch, but it's hundreds of pounds a metre sometimes.
Yeah, wow.
But that's much easier to put onto the garment once you've embroidered it, because you don't have to hem it or anything like that. They just do what's called a fell stitch, which is even worse than all the embroidery that I've ever done. They cut around. It's like an applique, but these women can turn underneath 2 or 3 threads with the tip of a needle and then do an invisible stitch to tack it on, so it looks like it's part of the dress. It's unbelievable.
Brilliant. Wow. So that's how you got going then? Yeah,
that was that. And then eventually just people, I posted it on the internet to show people, like, is anybody else doing this? Hello, is there anybody out there?
Yeah.
And eventually ended up with people getting in touch with me and using the work instead.
Brilliant. Like you're saying, you're entirely self-taught, and then it's very surprising to say that you aren't patient. And we always assume, don't we, a stereotype of all these damn beads and everything. Oh, that's so patient. People say to me, how have you got the patience to do this? Well, it beats staring at a computer screen.
Are you a patient person, though?
Am I a patient person?
But do you feel like you're a patient person?
I suppose in some respects I am. Probably patience is not it. It's perseverance. I'm an absolute so-and-so. Once I've got started, my teeth stuck into, I will keep on going. I think I do have patience as well, but I think I have more perseverance.
You kind of applied patience. Well, the way I look at it is I'm concentrating on putting one bead on at a time. It's just I've done it 400,000 times or something like that. It doesn't mean it's not. You concentrate on getting each one right. You don't kind of notice that it's taken a long time, because I'm not a patient person. The books are easy because it shows you a technique. Then you can try the technique, learn the technique, choose another technique. And I found that if you go and learn it in places, you can't choose what you want to do. You have to. There's always a set menu, if you like, and you can't veer off the menu and things. That didn't make me interested in going to learn about it. And also, when I was learning about it, there was no way you could go and take a lesson, because it was still, these places do it. There's no demand for it outside that, so you won't be able to learn about it. There aren't even any books. There's one small book. There's more now, but there was only one book then, which taught you the very basic stitch. It didn't teach you anything else.
Yeah.
And also I came in touch with a lady on the internet ages and ages ago, who helped me a great deal. She said she'd teach me all the secrets that I needed to learn to be able to do it, and then taught me nothing, but she did teach me instead. She's very clever. The way you learn is by looking at things. So the best way to learn how to do these amazing embroideries is just literally go and look at them, see how they've been done, turn it over and see where you can, or just examine the photographs. And that was the best advice that anybody ever gave me so far in this whole thing. So I'm very grateful to her.
Yeah, even though just go and look at it, you can't look at some of these things because they're prancing around on somebody's £100,000 dress.
True, yeah. But in the age of the internet now, it's quite good now. You can spy on them on all sorts and zoom in on the pictures, and you can see the bits you wouldn't be able to see otherwise.
Yeah. So did you watch was it the Golden Globes at the weekend or whenever it was?
They were okay. They always put the anorak zips in the back of embroidered gowns. That was annoying me for this one. So there wasn't very much embroidery this time, I do think. But I do watch all of those. Do you watch them too?
To be honest, no, because I don't watch telly. I just don't watch telly anymore. I haven't got the time to watch, or the patience, actually. I find telly very irritating. But
it's very boring.
I do like to have a look at some of the dresses, and I had a quick look. That's why the only reason I knew it was on was because I saw some of the pictures the next day on Facebook or Instagram or somewhere. And to be honest, some of them, I just looked at them and I thought, I thought some of them were quite disappointing, and some of them were very odd. There wasn't many that I just thought, wow, how lovely. There wasn't many of those at all this time, so I was a bit disappointed. I hope the Oscars is a bit better.
Yeah, sometimes they save them for the Oscars. They'll have the dry run for these, and then they'll take out the real glitzy stuff for the Oscars.
Yeah, well, that's nice. But yeah, I do love the embroidery on some of those gowns, and then some of the films as well. You've mentioned working on some of the films. We've had a few guests, haven't we, who've worked with films embroidery, doing embroidery on some of the costumes and stuff. Is that something that you like to get involved with as well?
Doing it for a film is really amazing. I honestly met the nicest people I've ever met in any business or industry from being involved with doing the little bits I have done already. They're some really, really kind, amazing people, and they worked such incredible deadlines. I did embroidery on a dress for the Fantastic Beasts film.
Oh, yeah.
That was amazing. A guy I know makes the hats for all of the films. If you've seen an amazing hat in a film, he's made the hat. And he's the kindest, nicest person you've ever met. He's so generous with his time and things. And he passed my details on to Colleen Atwood, the costume designer, who's one of my all-time icons. So I got email from a company, and you have to be very careful when you're working for them because you can't say anything.
Yes.
Or talk about where you're going or anything.
Yeah.
And I'm an actual huge Harry Potter fan. I used to go and get all the books at midnight and everything and stay up and read them. So when I got the email, I was thinking, oh my God, please don't find out that they think I'm a spy or something and kick me out. But it was an amazing experience. I got taken to the studios, and then a big car came to pick me up from the studios to drive me down this huge marquee that was literally packed full of costumes.
Wow.
I walked into the marquee, and they were all very polite and kind and things like that. Nobody was about. And then someone came to see me, and you had to sign 2 non-disclosure agreements before you went in.
Yeah.
And then there was racks of all of these 20s dresses. They parted, and this amazing woman was stood there with a dog. And I was kind of trying to think of something so funny, trying to Beaker off the Muppets going, "Hello, I love you. I love everything you've done. Can I kiss your hand?" But you have to remain cool and calm and everything.
Yes.
It's really cool. The first thing she did was give me 2 boxes of sequins from the Chicago movie. So she was incredibly kind.
Oh, lovely. Oh, that's brilliant.
It was quite funny because she had all the boxes of fabric manufacturers from Switzerland, like Schaeffler and Abraham. And they literally make the things that they're incredible manufacturers. They make you have to, even the website, you need a password to get onto their website and have a look at the things they can make.
Wow.
They're really kind people. But she had a box of all of these fabulous fabrics, and there was like, it's organza and things like that, and it's fine. And she was going, "Can you embroider with this?" All the time staring me in the eye like it was a Mexican standoff or something.
Yeah,
"Can you embroider on this?" I was like, "Yes, no problem. Yes, no problem. Yes, no problem." And I saw in the box that there was this crinkled chiffon. I was like, "Oh God, please don't touch the chiffon. Please don't touch the chiffon." And of course, she grabbed hold of the chiffon and pointed it at me and said, "Can you embroider on this?" And I was kind of thinking, no. But I said, "Yes, of course." And then eventually I didn't hear for anything for a while. And so I rang them up and asked if they wanted anything doing. If they didn't, could they just send my samples back and things like that? So
yes.
I could, send them off to someone else. You have to send them off to other people to have a look at. So she said, "Oh, sure, yes. Can you do this thing for us?" Of course, I wasn't going to turn that down. So she sent this box thing. And of course, the fabric in it was the crinkle chiffon.
So you was doing a happy dance with a bit of a "oh no" face.
Oh no, it was literally a fall on the floor crying, thinking, "Oh my God, no." Because to do what I do with the thing, the only criteria you have for working on it, you can do it embroidered through anything, but it hasn't to have any stretch. And of course, crinkle chiffon, you can only stretch it one way, and the other way you can't stretch it. So it made it incredibly difficult.
Wow.
But it was for Harry Potter and for Colleen Atwood. So I literally slept 4 hours a night for about a week and a half. And got it finished just in time, because they let you know subtly, kind of like, "Oh, if you leave, it would be nice if you can finish it on time, because if you don't, it's going to be 26 million quid that we're overrunning."
It'd be all your fault.
Really? Yeah, it'd be all your fault, but don't feel guilty or anything. So, oh my God. But that's why and the lady that did the sewing for it was really nice. She kind of talked me down from all the, "Oh my God, I'm not going to get this finished. I'm not going to get this finished."
Yeah. We must get used to it, because I know other guests have said the same. It's just like ridiculous deadlines to get stuff done as well. So just don't even think about the deadline. Just go for it. And yeah, Anthea was saying she had some costumes, had a weekend or something to do some fancy. Oh, dearie me. Yeah.
And my hands didn't stop sweating for a week. I swear, I've never been so nervous my entire life. I think I lost a stone. And on the last night, when I'd finished all the embroidery, and it was amazing because I'd finished it, I felt so relieved. I had this horrible nightmare on the same night that the screen snapped and tore the dress in half.
Oh no!
But it was all fine.
Yeah. Oh, dear me. So, we normally talk about techniques, but we know what your favourite technique is. It's a Tambour Embroidery.
Sure. And people get hung up on that, but Haute Couture Embroidery is actually mixing it. So once you've got that down, it's important. You kind of have to keep your toe into all the other kinds of embroidery that you can do, because the best way to make it look balanced, they kind of call it, is if you've mixed things in it. The lady that thought she'd teach me everything, it was very clever, actually said, when I used to do stuff and it was all getting very flat and boring, she'd be like, "Oh, it's Las Vegas, not Paris."
Yeah.
So you kind of think, "Oh, yes, okay, cool. Yes, it's a bit more showgirl than it would be.
Yeah.
Lady who lunches. Unpick it."
Oh, I love that, though. The meaning in those 5 words or something is just very powerful.
She just bark Las Vegas. Fine.
Oh, yes, but you learnt, though, didn't you see?
Yes. She was an amazing lady. She's sadly no longer with us.
So I think you've touched on some of the high points. Is there any specific high point, Jo, that really leaps out that you would like to share with us?
Definitely seeing the dress. When it's quite a cool sequence in the film, and also I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, so I was there to see it and things. And it was just seeing like, "Oh my God, something I've made is in a Harry Potter film." I was actually sick. And at the very end of the film, there's another piece as well where the lady turns around and I did a thing on the back of the jacket that's on there too, and that was really nice.
Yeah.
I don't know really that, and I think when some of the work the first time got used in the haute couture as well, that was really amazing, because I literally never imagined any of this would happen to me. It's really weird. The people that I used to read about in magazines when I was a kid and really admire, and then exchanging messages with them and things on Facebook now, it's really weird. And they're all really lovely too. The people that it's really heartwarming to find the people that you admire are actually really nice, helpful, kind people too. It's really quite something. I hope your other guests have the same experience of them as well. So
yeah, exactly.
It's easy to be disheartened as well.
Yeah, what a lovely thing to say. And yeah, that is an absolute high point, isn't it? That not only have you achieved and seen your work in places that you never, ever, ever in your wildest dreams would imagine you would see it, but you're in touch with the people who you never, ever thought in your wildest dreams you would ever speak to, and they're lovely.
Yeah, they're really nice.
Brilliant.
And they're really helpful as well. That's kind of why I put my stuff on the internet at all, because I hope people would see it and try it themselves, because I used to do the same thing, so you never know. until you try it. If you can't do it, it's easy to say you can't try it if you haven't tried. Can't do it if you haven't tried it.
Yeah, yeah, and it does seem to be something with a bit of mystique. Or, you mentioned magic and mystique a couple of times in your bio there, and I think that's very true in this particular technique. Now, the other thing I was going to ask you, and I never got round to it. So basically, it's like a hook, isn't it? It's like a needly hook thing. How does it actually work? Go on, I'm just dying to know.
It's like a crochet hook, but the hook part is very sharp and it's pointing inside the width of the needle, so when it comes up it doesn't snag on the fabric. Right. And there's a little key part in it. So what you have to do is you push the needle through and then you do a chain stitch kind of. It's all glorified chain stitch.
Yes.
And you either have a thread of beads on the back that you push one up with your finger, and you learn to see with your fingers. That's the weirdest bit. You never imagine you'd be able to tell with your two fingers without seeing that you've got two of these really thin sequins instead of one, but you can really feel with you're like, oh, that's two, not one.
Right, yeah.
So then you thread one up on the back and then you do another chain stitch to secure it on, and then you repeat the process a million times. But it looks quite good when you get going, and people always think, oh, that looks amazing, like a hand sewing machine or something, and then you turn it over and you see the work.
So that was it. I didn't realise that all the fancy stuff is going on underneath that you can't actually damn well see, and the top is looking like chain stitches. Wow, I didn't know that.
That's quite funny as well. Because sometimes you think when you're making it, oh, this is going to be nice, and then you turn it over and you're like, oh my god, nope, pull that off. And sometimes you think, well, I'm not, blah 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 blah, I've got to finish that. You turn it over like, oh, that turned out all right.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the screens are so big, it's like you can't keep turning it every 2 seconds to have a look. You have to do as much as you can, reach as far as you can into it, and then get somebody to help you from next door to turn the screen over. Who thinks you're very peculiar. It's like, what on earth are you doing with all of this lace and
there's some sequins and gold bits everywhere?
Yeah.
Oh,
don't ask.
So I did not know it was done with you can't even see it. Wow.
There's another technique where it's mostly used in India and things like that, where they do it from the top, and that's slightly different. They have a longer hook, so that because you stack the sequins and beads on the hook, and you can use that for different techniques as well, but it's not kind of as refined because you have a double thread going between the sequins, and when you do them upside down, you have a single thread, so they lie flatter and boring technical detail.
No, it's not very important. Do you pokey fingers with them a lot?
You actually poke your thumbnail with it a lot, even though that's incredibly bad technique, and I should have got out of it years and years ago, but I've never managed to get out of it. So if you've got a manicure, I'm afraid it's history. If I teach you how to do it, it gets really annoying as well, because after one poke on your thumbnail isn't too bad, but then when you've done it 20,000 times, you just want to punch yourself in the face. You're like,
yeah, I can see you can't have much of a thumbnail left then.
It's quite resilient, but it's definitely my days as a hand model, I'm afraid, are finished.
With all this beautiful work, I don't know if I even dare ask, do you ever have any disasters? And if so, have you got something that might want to share with us and give us a bit of a laugh?
Oh, yeah, sure. I did a shawl for I personally think that disasters are the best way of learning anything. If you go wrong, then you know how to avoid going wrong in the future. If you've never gone wrong, then you're always walking that tightrope thinking, oh my God, if I do this or that, is what's going to go wrong.
Brilliant point, yeah.
I got asked to provide a piece of embroidery for a film called The Danish Girl, which was another costume designer who I was absolutely obsessed by when I was growing up, and so literally fell on the floor when I got the thing, like, would you make this? So of course, yes, no problem. But sometimes you either get a pattern and the beads, and it's like, these beads go there.
Yeah.
Can we have it in 5 days? And so that's fine. But sometimes you get people that's like, well, I'm thinking blah, 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 green or blue or something. Or sometimes it was even more bizarre. And in this particular case, I got a picture of a reflection of the buildings in Amsterdam on the canal water. So thinking, okay, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with this. And so I did the first thing, and he was ever so sweet and kind, the guy who did like puddles, whatever, with the light on it, because of course it has to be appropriate for the period of the film. Yes. So I used all kind of contemporaneous beads and things and did it. And then he was kind of saying, oh, that's really nice, but could you take the white out and then maybe put this in? And eventually we went through the whole of the work I'd done, taking everything out and putting different things in. And then the day before I finished it on a really tight deadline, I mean, they send a car out to where I live in the middle of nowhere to pick it up and send it down to the thing, which is really, really impressive for a country person like me. But we should be really careful. I finished it and I was taking off the frame, and literally a pair of those stupid stork scissors flipped out of my hand and spiraled in slow motion, stuck right through the middle of it.
Oh no!
And made a big hole. So I had to keep the guy waiting while I went back and just redid it a little bit. Oh.
Did you put some more beads on or something? Oh God!
I had to adjust it by an inch here and there, and he had 3 panels instead of 2 then, but it was okay. But that was stupidness. That was a silly mistake.
No. Yeah, and actually those stork scissors are pretty damn sharp, really. I can imagine like a really impressive hole in some stretched organza or something.
It did. It went horrible. It was tool as well. That was worse. It kind of went ding, 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 ding.
Oh no!
I was thinking, oh no, please! I'd rather drop them in me than work. But you usually have 1 or 2 disasters at least. Like when you've finished embroidering something and then all of a sudden it's an inch shorter or something like that than it should be.
We've all been there, haven't we? We've all been there with that sort of thing. But oh crikey! Now the other thing is, do you have UFOs? Is that something that's applicable in your lovely haute couture world?
Oh yeah, sure. I could make 10 pairs of curtains out of all the UFOs I've got. Sometimes when it's like you just can't make it right. After a while, you kind of think, oh well, that bit went okay, and now everything I'm doing to it is just destroying it. So it's sometimes you can take a breather and take it off, and you go back to it, of course, which you never ever do. But
yeah.
You think, oh, I'll finish that on a rainy day. It's never coming around. You always get something new, like, oh, this sequins is sparkly, or there's nice beads, or
and I've got some nice new silk now to do something totally different with. Yeah,
it's like, oh, maybe I'll get around to you later on.
Yeah.
Shut the drawer.
Oh well, come on! You can't really be a proper embroiderer if you haven't got a drawer full of stuff that you haven't finished.
No, I don't believe people. The people that are perfect are never very interesting.
I do like the approach that people take and say they're samples, they're ongoing work samples. I really like that idea as well. Ongoing learning opportunities.
Yeah, they're like the relatives staring over your shoulder. It's like, you think you're getting on, hello, don't forget about us.
Yes.
Keep you humble.
And then the other thing that I was very intrigued about, so when I discovered that this is not your full-time gig either, is therefore, Jo, because some of these things are they're so beautiful and large and intricate. How on earth do you organise your creative time when you have a proper job and then have only so many hours in the day to spend on doing all this gorgeous embroidery? Any big hints for us and tips there, Jo, that you could shed some light on?
An amazing prescription from your doctor. No, not really. My job's really kind and they think it's really funny that I've ended up doing this, so they're happy to give me time off and things if I need it, and work around it that kind of way.
Oh wow, well that is so supportive though, isn't it, as well?
They're very kind.
How lovely.
I appreciate that greatly.
So you've got a very kind employer, and how else do you manage to create some of these beautiful pieces of work, and especially with some of these insane deadlines?
You just don't get an option not to. It's kind of strange. Failure is not an option, as they say. You can't let these people down. It would be horrifying to me. I wouldn't. They're so kind to give me the opportunity to do the work in the first place. You just have to stay awake until it's finished. It's pretty bizarre. But I think people think when they see these kind of things and embroidery in general that it's not terribly stressful. But the stress isn't doing the work. It's kind of meeting the deadlines for the people that have given you the chance to provide them with embroidery, basically.
Yeah.
You wouldn't let them down because it's your reputation at stake.
Yeah, exactly. And as you say, there isn't a great deal of time and everybody else. And then if you're creating the thing that's embellishing a garment, maybe the garment's yet to be made as well. So you can't have that domino effect either, can you? It's, as you say, it's going to be done.
An hour knocked off from me, and then they have to get it to the person that's sewing it and things like that. It all adds up. And then, like they have the money hanging over them. The haute couture's not so bad because the ladies that sew for that are they're absolute geniuses. That's where the real hard work is. The things that they can do are just impossible. And they're super skilled at it. I actually apologized to the ladies when I was there when I said, I'm so sorry for you having to work with my things, but they're so sweet and nice and chilled out, not at all like you'd expect. And like, oh look, that woman's embroidering on glass fibre and she's not killing anybody. But they are appreciated, I think. So
yeah, and that goes a massive long way as well, doesn't it? We don't like to be doing, don't matter what it is that we're doing, we don't like to feel that our work is unappreciated. And I don't care whether you're working in a car factory writing computer systems or producing something beautiful for a one-off dress. We still have that need, don't we, to be loved for what we're doing.
Yes, kindness costs nothing.
That's very true. Very, very true. And on that very positive and lovely note, Jo, do you have any future plans and projects that you can share with us? You may be on an embargo and can't tell us something. So is there anything you can tease us with?
No, I shan't do film work for a while or haute couture for a bit. I think I'd like to just have a stress-free bit for a while. People kind of approach you at the last minute because something's gone wrong, and then you have to work for it because they can't have it repaired where they had it made, kind of.
Yeah.
But no, nothing. Just trying to learn my Suzhou embroidery, I think, at the moment. I'm going to try and incorporate that into as much as I can do.
Right, lovely. And the tweed sample, how's that going?
I've started it 3 times already. The first time it turned into a different beaded thing, and now I'm determined to make it into an actual tweed sample. So this is 3rd time lucky, hopefully.
Oh, well, there we are. We've all got our fingers crossed that your tweed sample is going to come out beautiful.
So thank you very much. And thank you very much for having me on. I listen to these podcasts when I'm sewing, and it's like having a nice extended sewing family, and you do really amazing work. And thank you for giving up your free time to do it too. It's very good that you keep doing these things. I've learned loads of things from the people that you've done already. So thank you very much.
Oh, well, that's lovely. Thank you, Jo. And I do enjoy doing these. Sometimes I do think to myself, oh, God, why am I doing this? But yeah, I do. I love it. And it gives me the opportunity to talk to people I would never, ever have connected with and never, ever talked to either. So, and I've just, the things I've learned today, stuff that I've always had in the back of my mind, wondering about, just brilliant. So thank you for sharing very much some insights into quite a hidden world. It's been absolutely wonderful, Jo. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sue.
It's all right. And everybody, go and find Jo on Instagram, Broder Bear, and you can keep an eye on what he's doing there as well.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Jo. Thank you. If you liked this episode and want to hear more, then please join the Stitchery Stories fan club so you can get an email when a new episode is released. It's a quick and easy way of listening and of keeping up with any news and offers from our lovely guests. Please visit stitcherystories.com to join the fan club. Of course, if you have iTunes, then subscribe there to automatically get new episodes, and why not leave us a review and rating whilst you are there. So that is the end of our Stitchery story for today. So keep stitching, keep smiling, and keep creating your very own Stitchery stories.